All right, circles and ratio pretest. Use the approximation of 3 and 14 hundredths for pi. Round answers to the nearest hundredth if necessary. A circle is shown. Okay. Identify each of the following in the figure. The center of the circle, well, the center of the circle is P. So I would call it circle P. The diameter of the circle is RQ. I could always write that as QR. The order of the line segment does not matter. Okay. 3 radii of the circle. Once again, the order doesn't matter, but it should be RP or PR. It should be PQ or QP. And the third one would be PS or SP. Write the formula for the circumference of a circle. The circumference of the circle would be the circumference is equivalent to the diameter times pi. Or it would be okay to say the circumference is equivalent to 2 times r times pi. And the diameter and the pi could be switched, as well as this could be switched as well. Okay. Next, we have a circle, and it says calculate the circumference of circle B if the diameter is 8 inches. When I do that, I want to use my formula, so I would have C equals D times pi, diameter times pi. Diameter is 8 inches, so therefore it would be circumference is 8 times 3 and 14 hundredths as the approximation for pi. And I get as my answer the circumference is 25 and 12 hundredths inches. And it's circumference, so it's a line, it's a perimeter going around the outside of a circle, so that would be it. This one, calculate the radius of circle B if the circumference is 94.2 or 94 2/10 square centimeters. All right, so if I start with a formula, circumference is equal to diameter, and maybe it'll make sense for me to go circumference is equal to 2 times the radius times pi. If that's the case, then I would know that my circumference is 94 and 2/10 square centimeters. It wouldn't be square centimeters. It'd be centimeters. Then this is equal to 2 times r times 3.14. Okay. I want to get r all by itself, so I know what the radius is. So I start by dividing this side by 3 and 14 hundredths. I would divide the other side by the same thing to keep everything balanced. 3 and 14 hundredths divided by 3 and 14 hundredths is just 1. And so on the right side of the equation, I would have 2r, or 2 times the radius. And then on the left-hand side of the equation, I would have 94.2 divided by 3 and 14 hundredths. And that gives me 30, or the diameter is 30. And so now I have to isolate the radius. So I divide the right side by 2, because 2 divided by 2 is just going to be my radius. And then I divide the left side by 2. And my radius is going to be equal to 15 centimeters. Should be the correct answer right there. All right, continuing with this. Zach ran 5 laps around a circular track with a diameter of length 150 feet. How far did he run? Okay, so there's a 2-step problem here. I see that. There's 5 laps around the circular track, so he's going around it. So it's asking for circumference, but it was times 5. Then they told me the diameter is 150 feet. All right, so first I have to use 150 feet to find the circumference. So circumference is equivalent to the diameter times pi, or the circumference is equal to 150 times 3 and 1400ths. And so my circumference is 471 feet. Okay, but that's once around. And according to this, Zach was a go-getter and he did 5 laps around. So I'd have to take my 471 and times it by the number of laps that Zach did. Okay. And since I'm working on a pretest, I'm thinking about paying attention to detail and understanding that Zach ran 2,355 feet. Okay, and I'd even consider putting that in a sentence if I was doing this for a test. Write the formula for the area of a circle. The area of a circle is going to be the radius squared times pi. I know if you break up a circle into its sectors, it forms a parallelogram, and the smaller sectors, the closer it becomes to a rectangle. I know the base is equal to half the circumference, which is radius times pi. The circumference would be diameter times pi, or 2 times radius times pi. So half of that would just be radius times pi. And the height is equal to the radius. And when we put that together, we have r times r, or r squared, times pi. 6. Calculate the area of circle M if the diameter is 12 meters. Okay, so if the diameter is 12 meters, that means the radius is 6 meters. And then my formula is area is radius squared times pi. Should not be skipping these steps. I should be showing the formulas. I should be showing how I substituted in for the formulas, my steps as I go. And you're watching to make sure that I am not making a mistake, as I often record these pretty late or pretty early, and therefore there's a nice probability of me making an error. Area is two-dimensional because we're covering the inside of a circle, and if that's the case, then the label should be squared, and so the area should be 113 and 400ths meters squared. Next, calculate the radius of circle M if the circumference is 28 and 26 hundredths square inches. Once again, shouldn't be square with circumference. Let's see here. I know I could use what I did before. I could use this. I could say circumference is diameter times pi. Circumference here is 28 and 26 hundredths, which equals diameter times 3 and 14 hundredths. My next step is to divide both sides by 3 and 14 hundredths. When I take 28 and 26 hundredths and divide it by 3 and 14 hundredths, I get a diameter of 9. It says to calculate the radius, but the radius is half of the diameter, so I would take this and I would divide it by 2 to get a radius of 4.5, and so my radius is 4.5 inches. All right. Number 7, tough one. A mirror has a circumference, so we'll start with the circumference. And it says to calculate the area, so I have to get from the circumference to the area. So if I know the circumference, I have to figure out the diameter and the radius to get to the area. So again, divide that side by 3.14, so it's only D on the right side. I divide the left side by 3 1400ths to calculate the diameter. Get a diameter of 28. I know the radius would be half of that, so the radius is going to be 14 inches. Now that I know the radius, the area is radius squared times pi. Now I take 14 squared times the approximation of 3 1400ths, 14 to the second power, times 3 1400ths. The area is equal to 615 44 hundredths inches. And it would be squared or square inches because it is area, it's covering 2 dimensions. All right, so now we have some composite problems. 2 circles, each with radius r, are inscribed inside a square with a side length s. Okay, so write an expression for the area of the shaded region. Okay, so I would want to figure out the area of the square, so that would be s squared, because you just take side by side to get the area of a square. I would subtract from that 2 times r squared times pi. R squared times pi will give me the area of the one circle. There's 2 of them, so I took 2 times that. I wanted to figure out all the areas of the little circles inside, so I put parentheses around that to figure that out first. Then I would take the area of the square. I would subtract from that the areas of the circles, and that would equal my thing. That would equal my shaded region, sorry. Expression is telling me that I should not put an equal sign down for this, so it should just be something like this. Okay. Now, if S equals 6 centimeters and R equals 2 centimeters, calculate the area of the shaded region. Well, if I've done the first part right, I should be able to take S squared minus the quantity of 2 times R squared times pi. And a partridge in a pear tree. If S is 6, now I substitute the values. 6 to the second power times the quantity of 2 times 2 squared times 3 1400ths. Okay, so if I look on the inside here, I would have 2 times 4 times 3.14. 2 times 4 times 3 1400ths. And so then I would have 6 squared minus 25 1200ths. Then I would have 36 minus 25 1400ths. And I would get a shaded region of 10 86 hundredths centimeters squared as my answer. Calculate the area. I'm sorry. A rectangle is inscribed in a circle right here. Calculate the area of the circle. Well, I see that going across, it's 13, so the diameter is 13. That means the radius would be half of that, which I would use my calculator for, but it's 6.5 centimeters. Now, if the area is going to be r squared times pi, the area is going to be 6.5 squared times 3 1400ths. Now, make sure we are taking 6.5 times 6.5. Some are having the common error of multiplying it by 2, and you multiply it by itself. Then I multiply that by the approximation for pi, and my area is 132 660 665 thousandths centimeters squared. And so that is the area of the circle. The area of the rectangle has a base of 12 and a height of 5. So rectangle is base times height. Rectangle is 12 times 5. The rectangle is 60 centimeters squared. To calculate the shaded region, I take the whole bigger portion. So I take the circle, 132, 665 centimeters squared. I subtract the smaller version, or the unshaded part, the rectangle, which is 60 centimeters squared. And then I should have gotten my 72 and 665 centimeters squared as the remainder right there, and that should be my shaded area. Okay, this one you should have done well on because it was on that second formative, and so it should have been something you could have gotten taken care of if you were paying attention when you got your formative back. The advertised size of a pizza is the length of its diameter. What is the area? What is the area of a 16-inch pizza? All right, so 16 inches would be the diameter. That means 8 inches is the radius. And then it's saying what is the area of that pizza. So area is going to be radius squared times pi, which is going to be 8 squared times 3 and 14 hundredths. Ha! Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Early still. My area is 296 inches squared. Okay, next. If a 16-inch pizza costs $12.50 and is cut into 8 slices, what is the cost per slice? Okay, so the cost per slice, I would take my $12.50 and I would write it as a rate of being $12.50 over 8 slices. But I want to create a unit rate, which is a cost per 1 slice. To do that, to get from 8 slices to 1 slice, I would divide that by 8. I divide the top by 8. Or I could think of this as numerator divided by denominator, because a fraction is a division is a fraction. If I get $12.50 and divide that by 8 slices, I get a cost of $1.56. I could say 2.5, and then I could say rounded to $1.56, 5,625 10,000. If I don't, or sorry, $1.56 rounded to the nearest penny. Okay, what is the cost per square inch? Well, cost is $12.50 for the whole thing. I could say that there are 296 hundredths square inches. I want to find what it is to get to 1 inch, or per 1 inch of pizza, 1 square inch of pizza. So to get from here to here, I divide by the 296 hundredths. To get from here to here, I divide by the 296 hundredths, 296 hundredths, or numerator divided by denominator changes a fraction into a decimal. And so this would tell me that it would be this much money. I round it to the nearest penny, it would be 60 cents per square inch. Okay.